Hi everybody, the Mature Simmer here. So I'm doing a little bit of scouting this morning before I go ahead and get on. So I am on server 11 in FOC now, which as you saw was Shellbrook. So you can see here when I'm signing on, it's just half an hour past midnight. So this was one of the things the FM who's got a farmhand job here available let me know, is that basically right around and it's actually looks like it's 5 a.m. Eastern Time because I think that it is 5:33. It is. So, that makes it a little bit more likely that it could be a thing, but I guess if you try to feed animals over the time it goes, you basically have to feed them twice, like it double counts something. So I'm going to head over here. It's kind of interesting that at this point I'm kind of hitting maps that I've already got some familiarity with. So I'm a little confused, but figured maybe if I come up here the map will draw a different way. It's telling me with the numbers they look blue. Maybe it's just really dark purple. But let's see. I'm just curious given what I looked at before. Okay, I don't have any specific info, but I'm assuming that's the farmers, but maybe it's not. Alright, so this says TLC Farms, if nothing. So, yeah, I think this is theirs. So they told me they own the top right. So unless I've gotten my directions wrong, I'd say it's these. But it also looks like it's this. I'm just not sure what I'm seeing is accurate or not, but I think it is. So this was the field I was running on forever, so definitely know that field well, and not worked any of these. Now I think this was the large one. I think this was field 1, but it looks like maybe they redid something here. Or maybe the FM did something? I'm not sure. No, I guess they have this broken up, so that's interesting. Because I think on the normal Shellbrook map, this is... Actually, no, this was the really crazy large one. There was something over here, but... So yeah, things have been split up in different parcels for farmers only here. So that's interesting. But if they are TLC Farms... Alright, well it says this is me, but it's not letting me jump into any equipment, so I'm wondering if it really let me join correctly, or if I'm in the right place. So if I'm not and someone's watching this, I apologize. Alright, well it's letting me in equipment, but they said up by the silos they have a dirt bike that I could use to kind of look around. And they also told me they have like pigs and cows, I think. So there should be something. Alright, well there aren't. I don't know if these are the silos. There's certainly some silos. But I'm not seeing any dirt bike or anything. Alright. So they've got canola in there. So not a ton. Let's see, will it let me... Oh, you know what, I'm in the thing where now I can jump in. I just wasn't in the right thing. Alright. So some fermenting silos, grass. Looks like more fermenting silos out there. But like I said, I'm just wondering if I'm in the right farm. Top right of the map. Let me go look again. Alright, well this is definitely the map because on the Discord their little icon is TLC Farms. But this is them too, and I think this might be the reason. I was like thinking about whatever. So I'm down here between, right at the bottom of field 5. So I'm familiar with this one because this is where I fell off the map once. Just bringing back PTSD. That was not fun. Now here we'd be able to, I think, so this is one of the giant TMR mixer things, I think. So this one, yeah, okay, so I was saying, I think on the previous episode when I came across this, that I hadn't seen that, but now I do recall, and so I think because I was on the back side of this, I didn't realize, but when I saw the bunkers, I'm like, wait, now I remember, because, yeah, but this was like the giant TMR mixer, because I think it can hold over 1 million. So, are these... Those are chickens. Alright. So they've got lots of animals. But basically, I'd have to kind of chat with them a little bit more. Because they've bought a lot of land, they said, that they're not using. Oh, okay, cool. They've got, like, cows out. It's just not giving me any info on it. Oh, maybe it's, I guess it's attached to this cow barn. Or wait, no, is this theirs? No, this is the animal dealer, I think. Yeah, it won't let me do anything because I'm sure I'm not cleared. But yeah, on Shellbrook, that's the animal dealer, so that's correct. But they need someone to help with the day-to-day operations, so what I don't know is, like, is this something you'd be basically feeding animals, moving stuff to the BGA? Because right now, like, now that I know, well, but he's got cotton up here. Alright, so he does have some stuff. And then it looks like this is striped with what? Corn? Yeah. Alright, so he's got corn. That's not his field. So he's got corn there. And then he said he was buying up other land just to get it out of the market. So maybe field 9 here that I had, because on Shellbrook, like, I had put my yard here, and then it allowed me to keep the whole field, and so I kind of had split the field and worked it that way. So he's offering more of a do the day-to-day work, and then, like, the fields he's not using, I could plant whatever on it and generate some money and so forth. So I think he's kind of allowing me a little different setup if I wanted to look at it, to just earn some cash. But it's the question again of, do I want to be on Shellbrook? And alright, bulk buying station. Interesting. Alright, I can't, oh, there it is. Alright. So let's see. Because I'm like, I can't find this dirt bike, but there we go. Alright. Oh, just one little light. So now that it's after midnight, so we'll see. So they've got TMR, BGA. It's certainly easier to see here. Thinking that's an animal transport trailer. A lowboy for loading large equipment and moving it around if you want. Don't want to drive things around. Alright, trying to get an angle where I can tell where I was, so I can put that thing back. Alright, so it's between the large silo complex. So let me go this way. So it looks like nothing here right now. Let me hop out. So this, okay, so they harvested barley off of this last time. This bike is really way more responsive than normal, or something's happened weird to my wheel, but it's like hard to control. It's not nothing to do with lag or anything. Alright, and then this is the area. Okay, so I think he had cotton on here. Alright, so it looks, I'm assuming, given this fleet, that this field stays cotton over and over. So, it's been harvested, which makes sense because it's winter, so that's part of what he told me, is we've got some time to look things over and talk things over and see what makes sense. So he's got corn. Is that oat? Or no, I think he said he had sugar beet, but that's not sugar beet. Okay, which one is it? Sorghum? Sorghum, okay. So yeah, it looks like he's not running anything huge. And then he's got this extra land. I guess he's got cotton down here too. Although that's a different color set of equipment, so maybe someone else is working something. So, yeah, curious, I guess. Alright, but that, because, yeah, I don't know that, like, I kind of know what the fields are, so I don't know that I need to drive around and see, because there's no buildings or anything over there. I mean, he's got a few things here. I'm just not sure if they're, I think these are regular map ones, because it's a vehicle shop, and that's like where some of that stuff could be in town. I don't think they're things he owns, but definitely just a kind of more broader land setup. But I guess until I talk with them, I feel like I just don't have enough info to even know what I'm really looking at. Because, yeah, that is all theirs too. And okay, canola. Alright, so they've run these as giant canola fields. I guess what's down there? Is it just a piece of equipment? Or, oh, you know what? I think there's beehives. So I bet these are beehives that then... Oh, but then he's got something else over here. Or is it just canola with weeds? It's canola with weeds, okay. Oops. Yeah, that's just a beehive. Just make sure it's dark. It's a little, well, is it? Oh yeah, yep. Definitely a beehive. So with 150 meters, if you pace it off, I don't know if they've got measure as one of their mods. But if you pace things off, they've got a little bit of a supposed increase. Now, when I did some testing, I never really saw anything when I was doing that, but who knows. Got a US flag flying in the corner there. Alright, I'm thinking I can just come in through here and, whoops, and pull out over there. So, so I think the bike fits in between, but yeah, you can, definitely this is where I was, because you can see my, no, my question is, can I really fit in there? A little bit. Looks like it. Alright, so that gets me right kind of where I was. Whoops. There we go. So yeah, to make kind of a decision, I'd certainly need to chat with them a little bit, but at least I know what they've got going on. But it looks like basically cotton, a few other crops, So not as diverse as the other option I have over on Hobo's Hollow. And then I've got one other one that we're going to check out before we get into what we're getting into today. Alright, so it looks like this may be the only farm here, because I've noticed there's always this dude ranch on the farms, but I'm thinking those might be ones that are other folks. So again, he said helping with the dairy operation. Now the other challenge here is this is a European server, so there's a possibility I could have some lag issues. Definitely you can see I'm at yellow milliseconds as my base here for the most part, where on the other server I was white. I was half the time. I mean, anything under 100 is usually not too bad. So I'm just not sure how large this is. This looks like it may be a little bit small. So when I did find they were on here, plus the player has got logo, their logo has timber in it, and I'm like, if you're doing logging, like, I'm not a huge fan of logging. So this is what the vehicle workshop thing is here. It looks like in there. Oh, he has a power washer, because I know I've talked with some folks about, hey, do you want me to clean the equipment? The last farm I was working on, and they weren't that worried about it. So they've got 65. All right, so they have that. So they're doing canola over on that field, but they want help with the dairy. So I'm, and I'm assuming that help also means mowing and so forth and collecting. So 17 acres. I'm less familiar with this map. I've certainly looked at it. Again, I think I did a map review on the channel of it at one point. So definitely a nice location. Obviously here it's September instead of December, so it's a couple months up. And so this is also kind of, again, where then I was like, can I do a couple things? Now it's interesting because it looks like he's plowed this strip, so maybe he's planning on planting something here, because you can get a lot of grass off of 17 acres, as I well know from. But yeah, what I can't tell is how many cows they have, but it looks like it's just that one barn. So this isn't that large of an operation, so I don't know, I might be able to do something for them. But that gives me some info here, but it's a pretty straightforward thing, because yeah, they've got no buildings over here, so it's just a canola field that honestly isn't that easily gotten to. So I would say, like, yeah, that's a lot. That's a long way to haul stuff if you're trying to do that, and get it back to some sort of a silo. But I'm not sure they have a silo here, because these are the slurry tanks and whatever. I don't see a BGA that they're running that through or anything, but once again, I'm learning the layout of FOC, and maybe it's around. So he's in September. I think we're in September on the other server, so I'd be right in line. So that could be a problem in that any kind of harvest, unless it's just having me do grass work, then you can kind of do that at various times. Alright, so first day of autumn, so let's make sure we're ready to go. Looks like we are. So I'm going to take the liberty then of getting going here, because he said we've got cotton harvest, and that way we will have cotton harvest. Alright. Alright, I'm assuming... Yeah, it's probably 6 1/2 dozen of the other with this. Because he's got this field too, but... It would honestly almost seem like it made sense. Make sure. Alright, yep. Put that down. So, should be able to go ahead here. Alright. It is picking up. Now, cotton takes a bit, for sure, to get things done. But it would seem like it would make sense to just go across these fields. So I may do that, because I don't know that it really honestly matters. But I would think that would be a heck of a lot more efficient than just trying to do one field at a time. Even though he's got that second harvester kind of set up to go this way. But I wanted to, A, get going on the work and so forth right now. So, my assessment of what I've got right now. And this makes things significantly easier, honestly. Because, okay, so it's collected and then it's thrown it into a bale is what it did. I think I've used this equipment on FS22 before for someone. I just don't know that I remember it doing that kind of a transfer, but, you know, because obviously when it starts to poop out the bale, that, you know, I'm going to need to stop and so forth, but we'll see how this goes. The nice thing with cotton is it's just drive, and you're not doing a whole lot of stopping. Now you're obviously going to need to pick up the bales and so forth. So, give me a second here. I'm going to let this go. Alright, so there's obviously a little bit where the fields don't quite line up, but, you know, if someone's got to go through with a harvester there and grab a little, so be it. But if I can, I'm just going to go across all these and just keep running that way, because this is way simpler. So, no, I just wanted to drop them a note that I've gone ahead and started. So that way, some people have Discord on their phone or whatever, so when they wake up, then he might be able to see and know, and then decide, like, well, the guy's working on it, I can relax a little bit, or guy's working on it, I can come in and check it out. He's got all 5 of these fields that need stuff, so again, if it's me, I would say let one, you know, given that he has 2 harvesters, like if he gets on and works, I'd say one of us run these 3 the way I am, and then someone else run the other fields. And I think with the fact that you're going to probably have to drive around more on the other 2 fields, it might work out about the same. I mean, who knows? I mean, because again, like, if you get yourself enough headlands, and cotton harvesters have a pretty good tight turning radius because they turn with the back wheels and almost spin around. It's almost like a 0-turn mower. So, unless I have to, I don't know that I'm going to do any kind of headland on this. But the nice thing is, you know, we just move this along. But, yeah, I just went off to the Discord and let him know. So, obviously, I didn't need to waste your time with that. You know what Discord looks like, and frankly, there's certain things that just make little sense to, you know, that I usually cut out of videos anyway. So, there's a ditch around, so maybe I'll do something different in other places, but for the most part, I think this'll work the way it's going. So it seems like it's a little I don't know that it's a little tight. I think it's just the way it worked. It grabbed more of that cotton than one would expect. So on the way back, we're definitely going to fill this up, but you can kind of see what this is going to look like because I've run across all 3 fields up here. There was already cotton in the harvester before I started, and we didn't even get there, so it's not like we're going to get a bale for one run across. And what I don't remember, however, is this like really a slow thing? Because I know they've modified stuff for the economy and whatever, and so maybe the yield is lowered on certain things. But then again, cotton tends to be so expensive, or it usually is. That's probably something that's worth taking a look at. So let's see, why am I not seeing cotton? Cotton, there you are. Yeah, 1100, and it goes to 14 according to this. Now I know farmers sell amongst themselves too, so I assume you can throw it out and say, hey, I've got cotton for 2,000, and I suppose if someone really wants it right at that moment. Alright, let me go back here. We'll let this do its thing. Alright, so they're round bales out of this. I'm used to cotton balers that are square. But there we go. So we have got our first bale. So let me talk through what I got, because I think I mentioned at the end of the last episode that I, in essence, have 4 possibilities that have contacted me. I did have someone else overnight that contacted me. I chatted with them this morning at this point and simply did say, you know, in all fairness, I'm taking a peek at what I've got first. If you need something, you know, let me know what you've got, but, you know, I may already be full up. I just need to figure out, you know, and I'm going to look at things kind of in the order I got them and assess. And it sounds like they're much more like one of the other 4 I have, which I don't know that they're looking for a farmhand. They just had contract work. So the other individual I had reached out to had a contract, but similar to, I think, what I showed on one before, or at least talked about. When I saw it in the player contract, someone had already grabbed it and was, obviously, I assume, working it. I didn't, like, go on the server and verify that they were there, but most people, I mean, the way the process works, since you're getting timed and so forth, would be that they'd get on and they'd start working, because otherwise the clock's clicking and so forth. So obviously the benefit of contracts is you don't have to keep track of your own time, and there shouldn't potentially be the opportunity for any kind of disputes between the worker and the employer saying, well, no, you didn't work that long because your time is tracked. So when you log out, as we saw in the Discord channel when I showed you the one contract I was doing, I think that was back in episode 2, it immediately says and sends the information to the FM of what you did and how long you were on. So, you know, but as it says in the note there, like, this doesn't account for breaks or so forth, so it's possible someone may have agreed, like, hey, you know, let me know how many breaks you took or whatever. Like, I don't know how specifically that works. I haven't seen anything in the wiki rules that indicate, like, there's an automatic assumption in contracts that if you work, say, 4 hours, you're going to take a half-hour break somewhere so that you only get paid for 3.5 or whatever. But, you know, I'm sure different farmers will do different things depending on what they've got. Because you could certainly put out a contract that probably still is a day's worth of work easily. Alright, because I think we've got... No, I guess it's just trees. I was going to say, I think we've got a river or something nearby. But, so as you can see, I can turn pretty tight, but obviously, I think I'll be okay on this end. because it doesn't require as much room as one might think. And obviously I've got the header down, so even if I turn into the field and kind of cut the little bit of the headland just to clear up and not run over any crop or whatever, that would work. So anyway, so one of my 4, I think, is more looking for contract work. Now, it might be a lot of contract work, but it doesn't, I'm not entirely sure they'd be looking for, hey, we're going to work together, and I'm going to, pretty much all the work I have, you're the first call, and or there's some people I've worked for in communities like this that are kind of expectant, like, because there was even a joke a little bit when I posted my question. Someone, I think, came back with, yeah, a lot of people have their slaves, you know, and they put the smiley after it. Which, again, I assume means that, obviously, people still work when they can work and might do other things and tell their farm manager that they're a farmhand on, like, yeah, it's cotton harvest today, but not interested, boss. But once again, if you're an FM, because part of the issue, as I've been having the discussion with the farm manager here, is what they're looking for is dependability. And so that became part of the discussion about why initially they're like, yeah, I offer this amount per hour. And I'm like, well, what I've seen is most people are offering a little more, because he had an AI calculation that I think was a little bit lower. I think he said $8,000 an hour is what AI costs, and someone else I had spoken to said it's $9,000, and so that was how the $10,000 an hour was kind of getting set. But some FMs will go up to $15,000 an hour for contracts. You know, and once again, contracts are one of those things because you don't have an agreement, you don't have someone there that's ready to work. You're kind of at a time premium. Like, once again, if you're on the last day of your harvest cycle and you need a crop picked up, like, it's got to come off that day. So you might offer a premium, say $15,000 an hour, to attract people to take it, because they know they can, you know, earn some good money and move along. But, you know, my question was, they seem to be undervaluing human work compared to AI work, but their answer was AI is dependable, because obviously he can turn on the AI and it'll work. You know, and I'm assuming that's what they would do here normally without a farmhand, is they have 2 harvesters, they run one, and then they have AI run the other, and that may be a little bit of why they set things up the way they did here, because maybe they don't come in and do it directly themselves. So, and then the other 2 of the 4 that I've got were the 2 that we just toured this morning. And so the one wants help with the dairy operation, and the other one has kind of that unique setup of helping with the day-to-day farm, doing the day-to-day farm stuff, and then if I want to use what I might have as extra time to do something on the fields, I could. But, you know, again, that also potentially sounds like what that might mean is they're not expecting that I'm going to fill a ton of time with what they want, and so they're like, you know, you're going to have extra time, and if you want to just do it growing crop, and, you know, I'm assuming then they just would give me all the money from the crop that I worked, probably minus, obviously, supplies and, you know, all the costs. I wouldn't expect anything different, but, you know, that's what's out there. But then on the flip side, you know, I could make the decision of, yeah, I don't want to get into all that complexity and so forth, and feel like, hey, I can just do stuff for other people like I am here. But what that gets to, however, is I think this makes things a little bit easier. Well, it definitely makes things a bit easier, because I know some are just contracts, You know, they're not specifically looking for farmhands unless they tell me something different. But right now, so the other one that has a big operation, like he just told me I have a big operation and I have a lot of plowing to get done right now, which to me probably means they're in spring and they're getting stuff done. But I've not been on their server because I didn't get information about theirs. I could probably go server by server, try to find them, and go look at their operation, and I might do that depending on what's going on. But I knew I had this work that had been offered and I could dig into and make money on, so I'd rather, you know, a bird in the bush is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush type of thing. Like, I've got someone who's offered me work that will pay me versus promises of stuff, you know. And I certainly, while here, I've talked to the guy literally 5 hours ago, when we were working together. Like, I'm comfortable getting in without him and working. I mean, part of it is honestly, if I want to show the initiative too, as someone who would work for him as a farmhand. Like, yeah, I'm reliable, I'm here. And then that potentially gets me some better pay for things as we go forward. You know, the other thing, just like other folks do, some folks offer bonuses. You know, there's some discussion here about what he's calling crop share, which I think ends up kind of being what I've done that probably aligns with that we were doing in FSN sometimes. Was you would have FMs who would say, yeah, I'm going to give you 20% of the profits from the crop for helping out if you're here for the whole harvest, for example, and then they'd have smaller shares later. So I'm thinking that's kind of what is meant. You know, we didn't get into it specifically, but to me, and I think this is partially because he's older, it's not someone younger. You know, this is the server that has a lot of older folks on it, which align with me, obviously, as the mature simmer. He's thought it through a little bit more, kind of like, hey, you got to earn your way to the higher possibility. So there was a talk, basically, first year farmhand, and then the option for crop share opens up in year 2 and beyond, obviously. So it's kind of like, yeah, show me that you're interested in working with me long term, and then I'll sweeten the deal to kind of do that. And so the benefit there is, of course, as we work together, we could pick. Now, my question is, because it does appear to just be going, I think I don't have to stop. Because I was used to the square items, like didn't do what this did, but the square ones also didn't bale as part of it. Like, you didn't have this cotton and the bale, like it was just showing you one thing, and that was on FS19, I believe. So the FS22 dynamic here is definitely different. So this is our 4th pass already, which is always good, because, you know, as I chat with you guys and share information similar to when I'm sitting here chatting with the FM, and obviously at that point I tend to cut any of that out even if I continue recording, because it's just easier. It avoids anybody getting upset that something maybe they didn't want to be public shows up in a video, and then I'm potentially, you know, getting someone mad. I mean, I could probably pull segments out if I needed to, but that obviously becomes more some gymnastics and this and that as well. So but you know, that's part of why it's fun to sit and share with you guys what is happening. But as you might imagine, as I said, where it makes the choice a little bit easier, now that I've looked at the other things, again, I haven't talked to the people except on Discord. Although in the end, I mean, if you think it through and we're being realistic, like, all I'd be doing is talking to them here. All right, there is a creek there, so I wasn't insane. I was like, it looks like a creek bed, but then I'm just looking and I'm like, there's a bunch of trees and stuff, so maybe there isn't a creek bed, but there is. But I've obviously spent hours chatting with this individual FM as we work together, which is also part of the thing. What I do think is a little more fun, and, it requires some coordination. And the nice thing, too, that at least bodes well for the possibility of that, is in our chat we have determined we're both in the same time zone in the U.S. here. So there should, in theory, be some times where we overlap. Obviously we're both working adults. We have jobs we've got to pay attention to at certain times, and then we may or may not play at the same times, but obviously 2 times already we've been on. I'm fully expectant that I'll see him today, but in my case, I do have the day off as well. We were lucky enough to be given 2 days for the July 4th holiday, which, as I shared, I think in the first or second episode, was one of the reasons that was really enticing to me to make this change now, is I had some clear runway to just experience what was going on, and also, if I was lucky enough, as I have been here, to find work that I could spend many hours pounding things out and padding the bank account. Because the reality is, if I get, even if it was the pay we agreed upon, it's a lot of hours. I'm not going to get it done in that time, but, it would be 50 hours that I need in total to get the $250,000 that I needed to have the minimum if I wanted to be an FM. But I will say, I had asked in the previous episode, like, hey, drop in the comment if you have a preference. Should I just stay a farmhand, or should I, when I can, or when I'm at the point where I think I've saved enough, flip over to be an FM and so forth. I'm kind of leaning toward being a farmhand and just being able to do some stuff, because it almost guarantees some multiplayer interactivity, which I think is something, honestly, that I've been lacking in these videos, even though they're on multiplayer servers. The way FSN operated, there really wasn't a lot of time. The closest you got to it is that someone else was on the server working their farm. But if I'm a farmhand with someone, they obviously want to play and participate in the game too, and so there's possibilities to work on things. Now, again, I haven't talked with the FM, and I'm intentionally referring to them as the FM right now, because I don't know that I know specifically. I think it's Lomeric, but it could be Lomeric or something else. It's kind of, as I joke, it depends which syllable you put the emphasis on. Things can be pronounced differently. So, Mr. L, we can call him Mr. L. But in some of the conversations, because what we were starting to talk about, because obviously now that we've gotten to know each other, he seems okay with me, obviously, otherwise I'm sure he would have said, no, I'm not interested, move on. But we've been enjoying the conversation and so forth, and so he did kind of offer where he said, hey, I've got cotton harvest tomorrow, if you're bored, is how he explained it. But again, it's just, the way we talk to each other as humans, social interaction, trying to understand. He doesn't want to assume that since he had me doing some work, that worked. But then, he said, if you sign on as farmhand, da-da-da-da-da, and I was like, well, let's talk about that a little bit more. What does that look like? And part of it was, he said, it depends, because I'm like, how many hours are you looking for? And he said, well, it depends on what crop we agree to plant, which makes sense, because obviously if we suddenly are doing root crops or something that are severely more labor intensive, he might be needing someone who's really going to do whatever. But that statement, those few words, depends on what crop we decide to plant, points to a bit of collaboration. There's a we in there. And, the fact that we can work together and it can be dynamic. So the thing I like about that is, I talked about, there was a FM in FSN that I really enjoyed working for. And again, he was an older gentleman, and we worked together quite a bit. And it was a huge dairy operation, so there was a lot of grass and stuff like that. But, probably less of what I said, really working on a harvest together, than, you're on and you're working together. Like, they're doing a job, and, so maybe I was filling the barns from the TMR, and they were filling the TMR mixers. But it's still a little bit of an interaction. But here, like with cotton, there's no emptying of a harvester, so at best, like, maybe one of us is picking up bales and one of us is running the harvester. Because the thing I do need to find out is, given that they can use AI here, are they allowed one AI helper, or if they wanted, could they just run 5 AI helpers at once? Like, do they not care, because it's like, well, you're getting charged by the system for AI, so if you want to hire an army of AI people, have at it. You would hope the fact that you could interact with people and whatever would still steer people to, hey, if I can get a group of active people, that would be great. But, that doesn't always work out. But I have read things in the Discord at times of, harvests of 7 or 8 people at a time. My understanding is, I've seen as I've logged in, these are all 16 slot servers, which are all bigger than everything on FSN. There may have been 1 or 2 16 slot servers, but because they're paying the Trado for stuff, and you pay more for bigger slot servers, because I'm assuming obviously they have higher specs and so forth, and it's probably the same here. They're probably beefy servers to be able to do that. But the fact is, then you can have 16 people on at a time. There was talk of 7, 8 folks harvesting at once here and there. So it sounds like there's some big things that do happen once in a while. So, but the thing, kind of what I'm getting at, is, like, it was a very collaborative effort with that FM, and there were 2 other folks that were farmhands with me, so we had 4 of us that kind of were attached to that farm. And so it was a little small group, and it was definitely a lot of fun in the fact that, like, it wasn't just, not that it's bad, that it's a dictatorship per se, where the FM just runs it and knows what they want and doesn't even ask you, and is just like, okay, this is what I'm going to need tomorrow, this is what I need. I mean, again, in essence, that's what the farmhand job is. You're the hired hand, and you do what they tell you to do, But, kind of that next step up is, hey, I've got a little bit of a say, especially, if we've got crop share and stuff. Like, if we start to determine, hey, it makes more sense, or we make a lot more money doing such and such, why don't we do more of this? You know, it seems to offer that opportunity, and to do that, it's got to be someone you're comfortable talking to or whatever. But I tend to be comfortable with pretty much anybody, but unless they're really, really difficult and a real abrasive personality. But and I know yesterday, because of the topic we got into, I think I was at one point very much pontificating a bit of what I thought on certain things, and he listened and interjected here and there that things sounded reasonable, this, that, and whatever. So, I mean, I think it went well. If it didn't, obviously, I'm sure I'll find out today. But when he signed off, you know, yesterday, it wasn't like, yeah, I talked about cotton harvest, but don't bother showing up. You irritated me with the conversation, and I've changed my mind. So I think we're fine. But so it's a long-winded way of saying I think I'll let him know that I'm willing to commit to him at this point, and then the other things will be fit in if I can, because to me this has the best potential, if for no other reason, as I've said, that sorry, my steering wheel was a bit crooked, so I'm like, yeah, I need to drop the line here, because it was kind of at the point where the force feedback was not letting it straighten out, and I didn't want to break off the track. But you know, my periodic OCD was like, the wheel's not straight, and it's driving me a little nuts as I sit here in front of it, even though I'm literally not steering it. So so that's where it makes the decision easier. Like, I think I've made this decision. To me, this is a cool enough operation, and there's definitely enough going on. Because what I didn't know is there's definitely other folks I've seen that have probably what I would say is this kind of stuff, where they just have a lot going on. And I would say that was probably, you know, definitely the majority of what I had seen. So I was starting to assume, wow, everybody I'm going to look at is like this. The dairy operation guy is less interesting to me, simply because it's one thing, and I should say, I should qualify this in case, you know, people start realizing these are here, because the other thing I think I won't be able to do is, like, there was a channel in the FSN Discord where we were allowed to put media up of any farming simulator videos and stuff we were making. It sounds like they prefer that people don't do any kind of, like, self-advertising, and that's the phrase I've seen used. I don't know if that means just in-game stuff, but hey, if you have other stuff, because there's an off-topic channel which theoretically says it's non-farming simulator stuff, but like there was a discussion about some farming simulator stuff, like the precision farming thing was in there, for example, where people were talking about and then getting the answer of the why of why precision farming isn't here and likely would not be, because it would require, in their view, a revamping of the entire economic model. So I might have to ask, but like in FSN, every time there was a farming simulator video, even if it wasn't FSN specific, that was one of the places I was posting it as well. I mean, I've got other channels, either other YouTubers that have spaces for other YouTubers to share, or just the general farming simulator channel from Giants has a space as well. So I think there's like 3 of those, because the 4th one is my own Discord for the channel that I put videos up on, and video announcements, and just let people know so that they've got a place to go as well, to go look for things. But I think a lot of the folks on FSN found me because they would see it in the FSN Discords that, oh, there's these videos, and they'd obviously from the thumbnail be able to see it was FSN, and so I think I had a good amount of people watching for that. So there may be a sad result that people who really wanted that and were watching it because they were in it may suddenly not be interested now that I'm not in there anymore, and they might have been subscribers and they might leave, so I might see a real big shrink in subscribers, which would be sad, and hopefully not. Hopefully, you know, even if they are, they'll still stick around. It's still multiplayer, and it's still me, and still the content that's similar. It's just now similar but different, right? So my point there, however, is I don't know that FOC people will really know much unless they monitor things otherwise, or unless, you know, we run into each other and we're talking directly here in chat, because it doesn't seem like there's a way there to do any of that and say, hey, I've got, you know, if someone's got a Twitch channel or a YouTube thing, like, come watch me here, da-da-da. So people may not find it, but anyway, if that FM finds it, who's offering things, and says, well, you don't sound like you're very excited, I guess, you know, even though you're offering, I'm not interested because you're not excited. For that to be my primary thing, I'm not interested, because I don't think there's a lot there, and I think it would get dull. And like, there isn't the possibility that I see here of just remaining in FM, or I keep saying in FM, a farmhand, for a long period of time, because it's going to give me a lot more variety than I would likely ever get to on my farm. You know, and I think you saw that, like on Shellbrook and stuff, I was doing a bunch of things. Seneca, I was doing a bunch of things. Like, I had a cotton harvester on Seneca because I had bought it at one point because I had enough money, and it's like, why not? And, you know, we could do it. I never bought a cotton harvester in FS22 because I understood, like, I wasn't terribly interested in it as a continuing thing. But it's fun to do, and so, you know, if this guy wants to do it, like, for me, again, it's a simulation. I look at it very much that way. I'm, like it or not, I'm simulating being employed and working for someone. They're paying me by the hour. What they want me to do in that hour honestly doesn't much matter, because I'm still getting paid. So if I sit here and watch a cotton harvester going up and down for hours versus I sit and watch a combine going up and down the field cutting wheat for hours, it doesn't really matter, you know. And frankly, the way this works now, that, you know, it's not like the square bale where I have to stop every time it fills up. Like, this literally is turn around and ignore the combine for, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if it's 5 minutes to go across the field. It's certainly taking a while to go across these three, but this is like a no-brainer type thing. So I can easily do this, and, you know, I'm getting my hourly rate no matter what. You know, the challenge then ends up being like, okay, so if I just stay farmhand forever and I accumulate $10 million, like, what am I going to do with that? I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm just going to have $10 million, which, once again, it's enjoying the experience, enjoying playing with folks and so forth. And so that's another reason with the dairy operation that it's lower on my list. I don't know that there's anybody else on that server. So the likelihood, other than the farm manager showing up, and perhaps being present, I don't know that there's a lot going on there. Where here, it's a pretty full server. it sounds like most of the people that are here have been here. I think he made the comment at one point that all but 2 of the FMs are originals, which, you know, have been with this and on this server since the start of FOC. So, you know, there's likelihood to have more of what I'm looking for, to actually have a multiplayer experience, because I think that would be fun for the channel too. I mean, obviously folks do things where it's you know, the YouTuber and some of their friends doing whatever. You know, again, I'm not, if it's not my farm, it's a lot harder to set something up that would be like, hey, we're going to do a live stream, we're going to do it today at this time. I mean, it's possible I could work it out, and the FM would be like, yeah, I'm game for that, let's do it. And but you know, I'm not going to make any assumptions, nor am I likely to potentially do that unless people express like, yep, there'd be all kinds of interest for that. But because right now I'm also like technically not set up for it. I don't have a multi-monitor set up. I don't have whatever. You know, those are the type of things, honestly. So this is gonna be a little bit of a plug for you know, help me grow the channel. You know, if I get to the point where I'm actually getting something back, you know, i.e. I'm monetized on YouTube, like, it's easier to then look at doing things that would cost money or take time or whatever, where I could start to expand into things and maybe consider, yeah, I'll invest in a second monitor and setting it up and have live streams every weekend or whatever, if we have the interest and thousands of subscribers like the channels that do that. But it's a lot harder to do that in the beginning when you know, I'd basically just be spending my family's money on something that is entertaining for me, because at the end of the day, like, I might have nobody show up to the live stream. I mean, the one live stream I did when I had broke 100 subscribers, you know, I think over the course of the 3 hours that I was on or whatever, I think I had 3 total people show up, and I think I had 1 sit through the whole thing and chatter with me a little bit. But you know, that's for all the work and all the setup, that's not much. I mean, at that point I was willing to do it because I wanted to try it, see what it was like, see if somehow, hey, maybe that's the magic of growing a channel, is, you know, you throw up a live stream, and you know, I did advertise it a few days ahead and so forth. You know, if suddenly I had 200 people show up and my subscriber base doubled from 100 to 200 because of it, like, there's more enticement there. But I'm not seeing that. It looks like you've got to have a decent audience to begin with, a good heavy volume of subscribers, and then you have, you know, 50 to 100 that will show up regularly, type of thing. So that's the plug. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Let's get to that first milestone of 1,000, where we can start, you know, I can start to be monetized, and then look at reinvesting what I'm making there into stuff for the channel. Because right now, you know, you could say, yeah, I'm reinvesting into the channel. I'm making nothing, and I'm reinvesting nothing. You know, for that to change, I need to be making something, because, you know, right now it's not like I have stuff sitting around. I'm not even sure. Like, I would have to do something significantly different. I don't even have the space, the way it's set up, to really effectively put up a second monitor. When I did that, I jury-rigged some stuff on the desk I've got to make it work. But it was pretty tedious. So right now, I did make a commitment in the FSN thing, and I certainly would stick with that. But right now, my target is, you know, 5,000 subscribers will be my next live stream. So faster we get there, faster we'll do it. Doesn't mean I won't do something different in between, but that's the commitment I was willing to make, because I would think at that point there would be enough critical mass, and at that point I'd also be well past the point where in theory I should have opportunities for monetization, and therefore be making a little bit of something that I could spend some money on some technology and get some things done nicely. So, alright. So, I think for now, that gets you up to speed, gets you where I'm at. I'm going to be pounding away at cotton for the foreseeable future. But at this point, I am going to wrap up this episode. And obviously, I'll update you next time we get together. So I'll see you then.